Hello and welcome to the Tennessee Informer. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Our guest is Chris Morris, an SEC member who is fired up about our worthless cull supermajority not only being unwilling to close the primaries and require party registration, but forcing primaries on the counties. Chris, thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks, Dave. Glad to be here with you tonight at this late hour.
Well, let's get started. We got, there's plenty of bad things to say about the rhinos, reptiles, and reprobates in our supermajority GOP. Let's get started. But, we do have a few good guys up there, and Chris Todd is one of the good guys, certainly on most things. And he had a bill that I think you were maybe worked with him on a little bit that would have required party registration. So let's talk about that one a little bit.
Yes, very much so. Chris Todd is a great individual, great friend, and also a great representative as well. He's one of the few that's up there in that we don't have a swamp. We've got a sewer up there.
Pretty much.
We need to run it by the car wash and clean it. But anyway, Chris had House Bill 886, party registration, and Chris and I sat down 1st October in 24, and the SEC, the state executive committee, time and time again had been asking for the legislators to close these darn primaries. And like you said, these bunch of culls don't want to do it because some of them enjoy this Democrat crossover voting.
Yep.
Believe it or not, they still depend on Democrats. But anyway, I told Chris we were sitting at a bluegrass festival, and with the good music and a nice, gentle afternoon in 1st of October. I said, "Look, I think we ought to start calling this thing party registration. There's something negative about closing the primaries, and I don't know with a supermajority in both houses.
Yep.
Theoretically, we have a supermajority in both houses in the government, but reality, we don't.
Nope.
We absolutely don't. And this legislative session 114th that just closed is a great example of why we don't.
Absolutely.
So, here it is. Chris worked feverishly. I know he talked with myself. He talked with Chairman Scott Golden of the TN GOP. He also talked with the coordinator of elections, state coordinator Mark Goins was a great help. There was a lot of good people. I think Trey Hargett had some involvement as well, the Secretary of State. So there was a lot of good dialect input and a lot of hard work put in this. And of course, Dave, I think you may have a slide on House Bill 886. It was Senate Bill 777.
Yep.
On this particular bill, there were a lot of people who signed on to be co-prime sponsors in the House and a few in the Senate. And I want to thank, correct me if I'm wrong, there was 35 plus legislators in the House that signed on. And there's two in particular in the House and Senate that we'll talk about on the next bill we're going to speak of. But they both signed on to this bill, and I'm speaking of House Member Lee Reeves and our Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson. Both signed on to this bill that they were in favor or wanted to be co-prime sponsors on party registration. And this is more of a myth, and in my humble opinion, than them actually being true patriots for this bill.
So they didn't do anything to advance it. They just signed on to it.
They signed on to it. Look at me. I am for party registration. It was sort of the look at me effect, I call, we have, I've coined a new term. I get tired of the word rhino. We've used the word trans-Republican. A lot of people don't know what they are. But now we have political arsonists. And what I mean by that, these are the guys that gaslight. These are the legislators that go around and tell you half-truths, or they opine the truth, they twist it, or they just outright lie.
Yep.
And so now they're starting these fires, they're getting people, their misrepresentation to the constituents gets them fired up. And so I'm going to call them political arsonists.
Pretty accurate.
So, this bill, what really gets me, and I hope Senator Jack Johnson looks at this and absorbs it. And if he's got any questions, I'm easy to get in touch with. Never had him speak to me. He used to, but now if he doesn't like you, he just looks down at you and always says, "Pretty good day for a rhino." That's his byline. But anyway, if this bill had been so important to him, party registration, why didn't we get a second in the Senate? Why did they let this bill fail? Adam Lowe made the motion, and of course he was the Senate bill sponsor, and thanks, Adam. He made the motion and couldn't get a second out of any of those Republicans that sat on that committee.
Now, was Johnson on that committee?
Johnson was not on the committee, but he was a co-sponsor.
Right.
Somebody, with him being the Senate majority leader, if he really was working this stinking bill, why didn't we get a second?
Yeah,
that's my question.
Usually, in this case, if it just his name being on there, especially in the Senate, I mean, we know that the Senate is the more worthless of the two branches we have up there, or two houses we have up there. So normally, the establishment, if his name is on a bill, the establishment's going to support it. And which committee was that again? Which Senate committee?
I was going back and looking at some of the information. We can pull it up, but I'm in bill right now. It failed in the Senate State and Local Government Committee.
Okay, now it did get a couple of votes, right? Or what did you get? I think we got maybe one vote.
No, it didn't even get a second.
Didn't even get a second. Oh, okay.
It didn't even get a second.
Okay, so and we know what that means. When a bill like that doesn't get a second, then if Johnson himself didn't tell him to kill it, then McNally told him to kill it, and Johnson didn't say anything. I mean, I can't prove that, but anybody that watches this stuff knows that's the deal.
It's like it's like playing head games. Foreigner had that right. It's the song Head Games. This is what these guys do.
Yeah.
They play games, and they don't go up there and to be true statesmen. And that's why, and I'm going to throw this out there. That's why we need term limits on the local level. We need term limits on the state level, and we damn sure need it on the national level.
Well, we need that in a lot of things.
So that's the key point here. It just irritates you that people are up there to be statesmen and to be representatives, whether you're in the Senate or the House, and they end up this is the key thing that these yardbirds forget. They are the servants. We are the bosses. And some of them, like Todd Gardenhire, have got this backwards. He thinks he's the boss and we're the servants. But Mr. Gardenhire, you got it totally wrong, my friend. And it's time for you to hang up your hat and go to the House after your little show the other day.
Well, I'm hoping his district gets rid of him, but the bad thing is he just got reelected. So we're stuck with him until then. So but there's a problem with a lot of these guys. And the big thing is they don't feel like they work for us. They feel like they answer to the governor. And if they're in the Senate, they feel like they answer to McNally. A lot of them feel like they answer to Johnson as well. And then in the House, well, we got to do what Sexton wants. We got to, if Lamberth tells us to do this, we need to do it. If that moron Faison tells us we need to do it, we need to do it. I mean, they forget who they're there for. But part of the problem is not enough people in the state pay attention to state politics. They look right over it, and all they look at is federal. If we had more people paying attention and voting, not just, paying attention during session, the voting, that's only part of it. That's to get the guy in there. You've hired him. It's not like you hire somebody and you don't pay attention again until it's time to give them a raise or extend their contract. But we do that way too much as citizens, in my opinion.
Well, we need to do like the great state of Montana did. Kick some of their rear ends out of the party, take their R away from them, and strip them, and call them for what they really are. They're not representing the national platform or the state platform. Let's get real. Let's get tough. Let's roll up our shirt sleeves, because after this legislative session here, and I think it was a hurry up to get out.
Yep.
And why in God's name did they even have a special session once they were in regular session? None of that makes sense.
No.
And I stayed true to form on my voting record. Votes for the R. I voted for Governor Bill Lee both times, but I didn't have a choice. And that's what gets me. I had high hopes for him when he ran the first time, and about midway through his first term, he started going south on us.
I don't think he made it midway, but okay.
Okay, well, we'll give him benefit of the doubt. I'll give him another inch more than you did. So, yeah. But anyway, it's really hurtful. It's shameful. And you got to do the right thing. You got to uphold our Constitution. Number one, you first got to do what's biblically correct, no matter what. Nothing else matters. Number two, our forefathers, and remember this, it was Gouverneur Morris who wrote the preamble to the Constitution. We the people. Everybody hears it. Everybody uses it. That was written by Morris. How about them apples?
And you wouldn't happen to be related to him, would you?
There's ancestry right there. It's in my DNA. It's in my DNA. It runs deep, brother. So it goes all the way back. So, one thing that I always say, and I hold up my little book, a lot of people in our party are playing this game. They're going by the rules for radicals. And if you don't have a copy of that book, you need to go out and get you a copy and read it. Because that's what a lot of these trans Republicans are. Yeah. They're radicals.
Yeah. Well, we know the Dems use that one. That's their playbook. And like you say, the establishment Republicans use that as well. You said something a minute ago about throwing them out of the party. Well, hey, I'm all for that. Is that something you think we could do in the SEC? I mean, I thought we should have been doing that like at least 10 years ago. Is that something that can actually happen in the SEC?
Sure. That's what the state executive committee is all about, is creating the bylaws, setting the rules, and going full force. And I think with this next House bill and Senate bill we're going to talk about, they're trying to supersede our authority. And we're a private organization or association, however you want to call it. We're a private club at the end of the day.
That's House Bill 855, right?
Right. We'll get to it in just a second. But yes, Dave, just to go back and reiterate your question, and here's my answer. Yes, we can set in our bylaws, if they do not follow our platform, both the national and state platform, it's time to do some house cleaning. It's time to get rid of these moles, these political arsonists, these trans Republicans. We need good people in representation of we, the people of Tennessee. And another thing, there's 99 House members and there's 33 senators. Each one of them, when they cast a vote, they talk about, well, I'm doing this for my constituents in my district. Well, we, the state of Tennessee, are all your constituents, because every one of them, when they vote, that vote affects every one of us in this great state. And we have a great state. We need to keep this thing solid red. That's what we're supposed to be. But some of them people up there are beginning to make us look like a purple onion.
Well, all the metro areas are already bright blue. I mean, every metro area in Tennessee. I don't know of a conservative metro area in Tennessee. There may be some conservatives in those cities, but there's no conservative cities that I'm aware of.
Well, I know that Shelby County, which is Memphis, is solid blue. And there are some good conservatives or good Republicans, constitutional Republicans over there in that area. And in Davidson County, there's the same problem. But we have to say that both Knox and Hamilton, Knoxville and Chattanooga are still leaning red, but they're very, very purplish red.
Right.
So
well, if you were to pass that rule that, if you don't uphold the platform, you violate the Constitution, you don't uphold the platform, and granted, you have to establish it's not going to just be a one vote deal, but if you establish a process for throwing people out of the party for that, well, that's really the only way to have any discipline, to exert any influence. Otherwise, I don't know that we're really accomplishing anything.
Well, I think we'd get some major attention in national news, just like Montana, and we're a more conservative state, I think, even than Montana. But if we started stripping people or booting their rear ends out of the party, that'd make national news in a heartbeat in the great state of Tennessee.
Yep.
And I think we're past time on doing this. This should have been done, like you said, 10 years ago.
Right. So do you want to talk now about the bill that they did pass, despite the SEC's objections, House Bill 855, if we could pull that up there and you could talk about it a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Let me switch over myself on my desktop and get it pulled up. You have so many devices, you're looking at everything. But, yeah, House Bill 855, the sponsor in that in the House was Lee Reeves, and the Senate sponsor, guess what, was the Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson.
Well, those are the same ones that said they were for party registration, right?
Right. That's where they can say. But I know another fella that loves to use that BUT word quite often. But that was the way to say, hey, we were for party registration. It just died for a lack of a second in the Senate. So it can be brought up again because it didn't get a second.
Yep.
It didn't get a chance to get voted on, so it can come back next year. But here we are. Here's the whole thing about House Bill 855. When you read the caption text, and we had a little pre-discussion on this, even on Chris Todd's party registration bill, the caption text doesn't represent what the bill really is. And you got to peel back the layers of that onion to understand. So when you look at that caption text, it says election laws as introduced requires county election commissions when negotiating for the use of private buildings for polling places to inquire as whether by private building may be used free of charge. This bill was nothing about a polling place. This was about our Republican Party, and it also affects the Democrat Party as well, our ability to hold what's called a party convention. And what happened? Let's be totally honest. I was involved in the Williamson County reorganization on March the 4th. And I hear rumors. I don't know. I haven't seen any factual numbers or factual donors, just rumors of who donated a lot of money. I know Jack Johnson's got this PAC called Jack PAC or something like that. But I hear there was upwards of $75,000 plus spent
for what positions?
To elect county party officers of Williamson County.
Good Lord.
The county party officers, just like you're in Stewart County, you have, most counties have 5 officers. We go by the bylaws.
Right. We
have a chair, a vice chair, a secretary, a treasurer, and a vice treasurer. But we know that Williamson County is a large county, large populous county, the most wealthiest county in the state.
Yep.
And, 2 years ago, in 2023, they had the largest reorg the state had ever had. There was 620 plus people who participated in that reorganization. I was involved in. And in 2025, we had over 1,560 plus involved that were qualified participants. Now, we had more people to show up for the reorganization, but they were not qualified participants. And they had been told by the Contest and Credentials Committee, they thanked them, but at this time you're not a qualified participant, and they couldn't participate in the reorganization of the election of county party officers, okay, for the county party leadership.
Now, what was the number again that were eligible? How many did you have that were eligible?
It was 1,560, somewhere around that number.
Wow.
Plus or minus 10, okay? But there was about 1,700 people that showed up, and they were not all qualified, so they were turned away. And to be a qualified participant, you must have voted in 3 of the past 4 statewide primaries.
Right.
So that's and that's not a hard requirement to meet.
Should be higher,
but
really.
Some of these people we turned away were 1 of 4 or 2 of 4s, and they were rejected. I know Lee Reeves. I'm going to tell this about Lee Reeves, and he ought to remember this very well. Chairman Scott Golden had turned this young lady away. She was 2 of 4. Lee Reeves, about 20 minutes later, brought her back in to the war room, as I called it. Scott had exited the room at that time, went to somebody different. I know he was trying to get a different answer. That person said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but you're 2 of 4. And he said, "I have verified her myself. She's bona fide." Well, no, sir. The thing about it is, I want to tell him he needs to stay in his lane as a legislator and let us stay in our lane as state executive committee members.
Did he offer any evidence to prove that she was bona fide?
No.
He didn't say, "Hey, look here. Here's what I found." He didn't have any paperwork. Nothing.
He didn't have any paperwork. He said, when I checked her record, she was a bona fide participant. Well, our records, and they didn't change 20 minutes beforehand. Scott Golden said no to her. This time she was by herself. The next time she had Representative Reeves to come in the room with her.
What a lowlife. That is a flat out lowlife. He knows he was just told by the chairman. And hey, I'm no big fan of the chairman, but he said, look, she's not qualified. She can't vote. So he waits 20 minutes and comes in and tries to get a different answer, and then basically he was trying to throw his weight around, right?
In my humble opinion, that's exactly what he was doing.
Well, whoever told him no did the right thing.
Hey, what I was going to say before I forget, if he doesn't like what I say, he can give me a call as well.
I'm not hard to find either.
Do what?
I'm not hard to find either.
Yeah. But, what gets me is, they bring this bill up and he does his presentation before the full House State and Local Government Committee. There was myself from the State Executive Committee who was up there to testify on 2 different occasions. This is something that irritates me. When people travel in from in-state or out-of-state to testify on bills, these bills should be heard first.
Right.
When they are just going through some things that nobody's contesting or no people up there to testify, they need to be put on the back burner. People who take time off from their daily activities to be there to testify should get the chance. I know your SEC committee woman joined me the first time, Tess Robbins,
right,
to testify.
And she's one of the good ones.
She's one of the good ones. Amen. And she joined, and then the second time she couldn't because she had a conflict that she couldn't be there. It was dealing with family, and I understand that. And then another good SEC member joined me, Terry Nicholson from over in Wilson County.
Another great one.
Another good one. That's correct. She joined to testify, but she didn't realize the rules of the game. You have to get approved 24 hours prior to testifying, so they didn't let her testify. But there was another lady who is with the Williamson County Republican Party that was there to testify. And we have to check a little box that what we're telling, we're given an oath that it's the truth.
Right.
And we did that. Now, what happened, what they wanted to do was take away the party's right to hold a convention. A lot of people call it a caucus, the famous Iowa caucus.
Right.
But we only caucus our local county seats, like county commissioners, county school board, the county mayor or county executive, sheriff, road superintendent, and all county courthouse offices. Okay.
So a judge, you could do a county judge then.
Right, and I'm going to get into that in just a second. You could do a general sessions judge, that is correct, but you can also do what is called a judicial caucus, which gets into your DAs and your circuit judges of a judicial district, okay? So we have done that in this senatorial district as well. But anyway, long story short, we do not caucus from the state executive committee, state representatives, state senators, U.S. representatives, or congressmen, or U.S. senators, or our governor. We do not caucus those positions. It's only on the county level. And like I said, we are a private party. We have the right to do this. We set our own bylaws. And what the government has done is stuck their nose into a private organization, big time. So my thing is, if they stick it into our private organization, when are they going to stick it into the Rotary Club, the Lions Club, the Kiwanis Club, or let's even carry it to the churches? That's why we left England with separation of church and state. We did not want, like in England, they owned the churches, were owned by the country, and we wanted separation. Okay, that's what we fought for. That's part of the revolution. You know, the redcoats wanted to come over here and take back over again. But anyway, when are they going to enter into the churches, whether it be the Catholic or the Methodist or the Baptist, the Church of Christ, and start saying, okay, we're going to take charge and start electing your leadership, your bishops, your elders, your deacons, you know. Who's to say that won't happen? Now, I don't think it will, but hey, they start somewhere. That you give them an inch, they'll take a country mile in a heartbeat.
Well, in any event, it's a private party, private group, and the state has no right dictating to that. And I don't know why, to be honest with you, we even on the issue of closing the primaries, I don't understand why we have to have them do that. I don't know why the SEC can't close the primaries. We are a private entity. The party is private. So I don't even know why they have that influence. I did get the answer from Scott one time. I can't remember all the details, but I do remember thinking that that's still BS. Okay, I'll just put it that way.
Okay. Well, you know, the thing about it is this bill that they passed, 855,
you want to put it back up there? I could put the amendment back up there. And understand, you sent me everything, okay, but I couldn't put everything up there. So this is just kind of the main part of the amendment. I'm sure you can talk the rest of it.
Right, I can. But, you know, the thing about it is there's been federal Supreme Court cases. One that involves the Republican Party was Sheehan versus Republican Party of Connecticut in 1986. And it was found to be constitutional, that the parties are private. And, you know, one thing that in Sheehan, And in the Supreme Court's ruling, they said, number one, to Sheehan versus Republican Party of Connecticut, the Republican Party have the right to determine their own membership requirements. Yep. The same goes for the Democrat Party. Same thing. And to choose their candidates through methods that reflect their beliefs and practices. Yep. Okay? And number three, to be free from undue government interference, pure and simple. And that same thing has happened in the great state of California, where the Democrat Party got the state executive committee or whatever in California. It was a Democrat case, and the Supreme Court upheld it as well. So I know that Gino Bulso, another good House member, has brought up about the Idaho case and talked about it on the House floor the day they debated this bill. Now, here's what gets me is, number one, I'm going to read the last paragraph that I sent. I wrote out my speech. I sent it to every Senate committee member, Democrat and Republican, on state and local government, full committee. I did the same in the House, and I sent it to both Republicans and Democrats as well. And in closing, I put, given these constitutional concerns, I respectfully urge the committee to reconsider and reject this amendment to House Bill 855. It's essential that we uphold the rights of political parties to determine their own membership and candidate selection process without unconstitutional interference from the state. In doing so, we preserve the integrity of our democratic system and our fundamental principles of political freedom.
And what was their response?
They passed it anyway.
Well, I know they passed it, but I mean, did they not? What justification did they give in committee for doing this? Because I know some of these things had to be brought up in committee. What was their justification?
They would refer. They first went out and asked, and I'd have to go back and watch it. They wanted to ask questions. They had a representative, an attorney, Matt Mundy, who was there to answer the members of the House committee's concerns. And then they went right back into session, then right back out and heard from us as witnesses. There were like myself and Diane Chenard from Williamson County Republican Party testifying. Then there were two people testifying. We were in opposition. They were for the bill. And one of those members was a lady who ran on what was called the Williamson County Constitutional Conservatives. And what bothers me, I really respect the gentleman who testified. I really appreciate his military service. They tried to take a party reorganization and make it out like it was a convention or a primary. It was neither one. It was just simple reorganization of that Williamson County party. And they twisted and opined this information. They took their reorganization of March the 4th. They talked about it. Anybody can go and watch that video and see. And they just, they mixed and confuse people. And they continue to spread these same innuendos today.
And what's the name of this group?
They're called I call it the WCC, Williamson County Constitutional Conservatives.
And people that don't know better will hear constitutional conservative and think that they really are, right?
Right. And they will think that, but they're really not. I hate to tell them, because they're not telling the truth. And and this goes back in August of 2024. There was in District 10, There was an appointment by the county commission for a lady that was the former chair of the Williamson County Republican Party, got appointed to a county commission spot. And they held a special caucus or convention for that one district seat only to be placed on the ballot in November. And it got put on the ballot. And what happened was the party and only the members of District 10, and it didn't matter if you were a dues paying member of the party or not, if you were a 3 out of 4, you could participate in that district convention. And the lady that got placed into that seat by the county commissioners got voted out 2-1, and a gentleman was put in to represent the R for the Republican Party. A guy by the name of Bill Petty was placed in and won the convention, and then therefore ended up on the ballot. Now, the thing about a convention, and this is what's got their dandruff, this is part of their dandruff, is once you run and you're defeated, you can no longer go and get a petition to get on the ballot as a independent or a Democrat.
Right.
But let me tell you what they did. When the candidate was selected from that convention, some of these members and some of these WCCC or WCC people turned around and supported an independent over a Republican.
Because it was their independent.
How Republican is that?
Yeah.
You know, and they want to go around and throw their weight. They've tried to hijack the party, but this seems to be a snowball effect that's gone on in 6 or 7 counties throughout this great state.
Yeah, let me say this let me just say this real quick. Next week, we're going to have Steve Hickey on from Williamson County GOP, so we'll get really down in the weeds on that. But I do want to say that the WCC and also Governor Lee were, they had their chosen candidates in the that Williamson County race, and it didn't turn out their way. So I'm sure all that plays into this to a great degree, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people, Lee Reeves and Jack Johnson, got their butts handed to them in this reorg, And that's what's happened. It's all over sour grapes, no matter how you look at it. And then they started looking for ways to try to start doing things that shouldn't have happened. But I want to tell you one thing that I'm proud of is Senatorial District 28. Our state senator, Joey Hensley, was one of the 3 in the Senate that voted to oppose Senate Bill 799. And thank you, Joey Hensley.
He's one of the good ones.
He is a good one. And all 5 of our state representatives in Senatorial District 28, that's Representative Jody Barrett, Representative Kip Capley, Representative Scott Serpicki, Representative Clay Doggett, and Representative Todd Warner, who has a little bit of Williamson County, just like I do, and Senator Hensley. They all voted in opposition of House Bill 855. So I taught this at Senatorial District 28, out of the 33 is the most Republican of any. So thanks to all those guys, and they truly get it. When I chair the county GOP in my county up until reorganization, I've got too much with the state executive committee. But Representative Doggett and I talked in depth in 22, and we went to a convention. It saves the counties money. In Giles County, we were paying around $32,000 to hold a primary.
Yep.
I think Wayne County told me theirs was going to be between 16 and 17. I got numbers from Chester County McNairy County, just different counties across the state. And a lot of these counties, it's very hard to come up with that money. But here's the key point. When the fiscal note went in and went before the fiscal committee, it had no significance, none.
Right.
But automatically, and what Representative Todd Warner did a great job from the House floor that day when they were debating this bill on the floor. He stood up and called them, they simply lied. All at once, they take about $100 million from the Duck River Fund, but there was a $100 million fund. They pulled $35 million out, but $8 million of this is to go and help counties pay for these primaries.
Okay, now hold on just a second. So just so everybody out there listens and understands, originally when it went through the committee, it didn't have a fiscal note. And for those of you who don't know, if a bill has a fiscal note on it, if it's very high at all, then it's either not going to pass or to get put behind the budget, as they call it, which means, okay, after we fund all the priorities of the governor and that we want, then we'll consider funding this bill. But there was no fiscal note on it until at what point?
After it went to the House floor for full debate on the House. And that morning, there was an $8 million amendment or fiscal note attached to this bill.
That should have killed it right there. That should have killed it right there. Anything else, that would have killed right there. That just tells you that the rhinos, reptiles, and reprobates were all for that bill. That's exactly what that tells you. Now, I want to clarify something. So they're wanting this primary for the counties, and as you said, it would have costed the counties. I know a few years ago we looked at doing one. It was going to cost Stewart County like $26,000, and we're like, no, we're not going to do that. Then we'll just do a convention. So the primary will apply to just county offices. It doesn't have anything to do with your CEC, your county GOP, or your CEC as far as their elections, correct?
That is 100% correct.
Okay. So, but they have some other positions they're concerned about, is my guess.
Well, here's the thing. You know, when I became the chair of our GOP, our local county, the AOE at the time, and she since retired, said, look, you guys are holding this Republican primary in an off-presidential year. Look at what this is costing our county taxpayers to hold a stinking primary for 3 people. It's costing over $30,000.
Yep.
Why in God's name are we doing this? So I said, we'll handle this. We'll fix it. And that's when Representative Doggett and I started talking about a convention. And that's what we went to. And we put that money back into our general fund out of the election fund, where they could use it to, number one, help go buy a new ambulance or help with maintenance of buildings. And a lot of these rural counties are distressed.
Yeah.
They don't have the money that a Williamson County has, we'll say Davidson. They spend money like up there in that county like it's growing on trees.
Right. I've
been trying to find a money tree myself. I haven't found one yet. But anyway, this is going to put cost burden. And I told the whole time, I was telling people, I said, this bill cannot go through without having a fiscal note. So therefore, somebody kept this in secret and just outright lied. And I understand why Representative Warner was so hot on the floor that day. It's because they lied about this bill. And let's call a spade a spade.
Yep.
Let's don't beat around the bush. Let's don't go chase rabbits down a hole. Let's call it for what it is. They start these political fires, so therefore they're political arsonists. That's a new term that I want to coin, because they have started so many fires. Heck, I know your previous guest, Richard Archie, was so upset about Second Amendment.
Yep.
They have done everything to chip away at our God-given rights, our constitutional rights, and ignore what Supreme Court cases have said right here in this state.
Well, they ignore our state Supreme Court.
They ignore our state Supreme Court. But the biggest problem in this state is in both houses is the leadership.
Yep.
Leadership has got to change, and they vote these same people right in. And I don't know Ken Yeager, but he did it to himself. He was inebriated 2 days after he got elected back to some type of leadership position in the Senate. Goes down to Jekyll Island in Georgia.
Yeah,
gets a DUI, hit and run, and then pees all down. He became two-tone britches.
Yeah,
those khakis went two-tone.
Yep.
But
on film.
Yep. All this is unbecoming.
Let's not forget the hit and run. He was a hit and run. This is a state senator goes to another state, gets drunk, does a hit and run, runs, and then they're filming him. I guess I don't know if this was right. I guess right before the cops got there, and there he is urinating in public and pretty much all over himself. But he's still in leadership.
He was urinating on himself during a field sobriety. That's when that occurred. The police.
Pretty good way to fill it, huh?
Yeah,
can't fill it any better than that.
It ain't no different than Jeremy Faison going out at a basketball game and trying to jerk the referee's britches down.
Yeah, and he's still in leadership. 5 years later? I can't believe that they keep bringing the same scum buckets back into leadership. Randy McNally should have been gone. Disgrace to our state, should have been gone. That's why I say we have rhinos, reptiles, and reprobates running the Tennessee GOP.
I agree with you. I hate to agree with you, but I am agreeing with you because it's the God's truth. And that's what's so wrong. And then I can't understand House members or Senate members reelecting these people to these same positions. We're playing Pete and repeat.
Yep.
And what was it? The thing, if you, the signs of an idiot's keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Yep.
And expecting different results, we're not going to get different results when we keep the same problem,
Absolutely.
They're not part of the solution. They're part of the problem.
Yeah, well, with Republicans like what we've got, we don't really need Democrats. I know Democrats have to laugh all the time in the state of Tennessee. They're the minority party. But conservatives, for the most part, we can't get anything done because the establishment is not conservative. They're not even constitutional. Much less
they run this thing like they're kings up there, the leadership, and like they're dictators. And you can't make me think for one moment that they don't threaten these people with their position or where they're going to have an office or a chairmanship.
Yep.
They do all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
And if they would just expose them, I'm going to tell you, if one of them did it to me and said, hey, if you don't do this, you don't think I wouldn't blow the whistle real loud, I'd make you embarrassed. You'd go find a foxhole and you'd stay in that thing.
Bruce Griffey stood up when he was there. Todd Warner stands up and tells the truth about him. What's the guy? Barrett?
Monty Fritz.
And Monty Fritz. Monty
Jody
Fritz is
Barrett.
excellent. Those guys tell it like it is. The problem is we don't have enough of those guys up there.
Right. And I know that we got a replacement when Michelle Renaud, she's done an excellent job.
She's going to be great.
And then, of course, Dave, you and I are not always going to agree on everything. And we haven't. And that's the same thing with Representative Doggett. He's like my own. We don't always agree. I don't always agree with Kip Capley or Scott Serpicki. But we have to talk through things and say, hey, let's look at this, and there's things that need to happen. And for the most part, they are more conservative. And I know our district is more conservative than most of them up there. So I'm proud to say that.
The key is they have to be concerned about what their constituents think. And no, we're not going to always agree. I understand that, but they have to be more. Way too many of them are more concerned about keeping the governor happy, keeping Sexton happy, keeping McNally happy, rather than what their constituents want and what they took an oath to do. That's the big problem, is we don't have enough people that think, hey, I'm here to represent my district and uphold, the first thing is first, you got to uphold your oath. I mean, it's not just a ceremony. It's supposed to mean something. And it irritates me that most of them, it doesn't mean anything to them. And that's the big problem. But there's just not a lot of people out there that run for office that also feel that way. And I understand, you're going to have to work with others up there. I've got that. You're not going to always get the exact bill you want. But if you are kissing the butt of the governor or the so-called leadership, and you care more about keeping them happy than upholding your oath, you're part of the problem. And there's a bunch of them like that.
Amen. On the state executive committee, there's 66 members. There's a man and a woman per senatorial district. Since there's 33 times 2 equals 66. There's 33 men, 33 women. We have increased on the state executive committee to where we're about close to 50% of us are going for what is the correct way of handling things and to make some changes in the bylaws. I'm one of the guys, one of the members that think the bylaws need to be a lot tougher. I'm one of the guys who want to remove people from the party that don't uphold the platform. And there's more of us out there. There's a lot of good people. And I will tell you, the SEC has gotten stronger in the last 3 years with some people, new faces coming on that have tried to make a difference. And I feel like I'm one of the faces that has made a difference. And one of the things, too, is I know in the House they follow Mason rules, and on the SEC we follow Roberts rules. Well, this past meeting that we had in April over in Mount Juliet, I worked with Chairman Golden. He was in full agreements and met a great individual in Williamson County who has led the charge in being our parliamentarian. Is everything on the SEC perfect? No. It's a work in progress. And I think there's going to be some things that are going to happen over the next few months between now and our meeting in August that we're going to make some headway, and we're going to get some things that need to be done corrected and make it stronger and make our party more healthier. Sort of like following Donald Trump. We want to make it as strong as it can be. We want to make it healthy. We want to make it right. We want to do things that are Republican and constitutional and uphold our God-given rights. That's what we're after. There, like I said, there's around 45% of us that are moving that direction. And it's made a difference with some of them because some people, I know that some members don't show up and they issue a proxy because they can't be there. I know it's all voluntary, just like being in county party leadership is voluntary. A lot of people out there don't understand. We, as an SEC, don't get paid one penny. Right. We fund our own hotel rooms. We don't get reimbursement for gas or anything of that nature, nor do we receive any compensation whatsoever.
And you cover several counties. I think Tess, our SEC here, Tess, I think she's got maybe 8 counties, something crazy like that. Yeah.
Tess has got 8 counties. I know Paige Wally's senatorial district, I think, is 8 counties. I know our senatorial district is 4 and part of Williamson, so we got 4 1/4 counties. And we got a lot of territorial miles. Yeah. But some SEC members are exclusive to Davidson, exclusive to Rutherford, exclusive to Shelby, and exclusive to Williamson. That's understandable, but to make 3 meetings a year and you can't be there 2 out of the 3, you don't need to be on the state executive committee.
Yeah. I want to go back to the primary issue. So the bill passed. They've allocated the money from it. They took some from the Duck River project and whatever. I don't know if was it 8 million? Is that what they took for primaries?
8 million.
Yeah,
8 million.
I have no
correct.
idea if that'll be enough. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to have to. I'm sure they're going to have to reappropriate something every few years for that to cover all that. Now, I will say, I think since we are private parties, I think we should be covering. I think the party should cover the cost of primaries. I know that's not a popular idea, but I just think we should. Anyway, but they passed the law on the primaries. There's nothing we can do, but I guess we do, and I've heard something about it. Is the SEC going to challenge this in court?
I feel strongly. I can't give you an answer 100% yes.
Right.
I'm leaning that way. I feel strongly we're waiting on the outcome of another state has got this same problem similar to ours. It just happened with their co-legislators that did this unconstitutional.
What state was
and
that?
So state of Virginia.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So we're waiting to see what the ruling is going to come out on that case. But even the chairman has given me the indication that, yes, we will challenge. And, it needs to be challenged because the DECOM thing has been upheld. It's constitutional by what we do. It's not this law they passed is very unconstitutional. And you sit up there, and what gets me is these people who represent us. I'm going to take the Democrats out of it. Now, I will say on the House floor that day, 2 Democrats crossed the aisle and were 2 of the 25 no votes.
Yeah. Broke clock is right twice a day, so that's good.
Yeah. But anyway, long story short, we had these folks who voted against it that knew that this bill was unconstitutional. And I'm proud to say again, there's all 5 of my state representatives in our senatorial district. Shout out to Gino Bulso. Thank him very much. There's Monty Fritz, another good one. There's Rusty Grills, Bud Halsey.
Yep.
From up in East Tennessee, Kelly Kiesland, Tim Rudd. Tim is a former SEC member. He truly understands. Michelle Renault is on there. The lady that Salinas is a Democrat that voted no. And even Gloria Johnson voted no. So, that's big. Jay Reedy, I know he's over in your neck.
Yeah, he's my rep, and I'm not
minute.
Surprised that he voted no.
I got to back up. There's Antonio Parkinson voting no. There's 3.
Hey, real quick, how did? I know that you guys made your arguments against it, and they basically ignored it. But how did they sell it? You mentioned earlier the Williamson County constitutional conservatives. What was their pitch for justification for doing this? I don't know that we've actually talked about that. What was their pitch?
Truly, their pitch was they were convoluting and confusing our representatives on the state and local government committee, that they were confusing a reorg, Williamson County reorganization, with a primary or a convention. That was their pitch. I know John Crawford was the chair. I appreciate him giving me the opportunity to speak. But after it was over, I got him off. I called him over the elevator and I said, Representative Crawford, let me ask you a question. What county are you from? He told me Sullivan. I said, y'all reorged in Sullivan County already up in Bristol in that area. And he said, yes, we have. And I said, what they're comparing is the Williamson County reorganization, just like you guys did in Sullivan County. That was their pitch.
What did he think? What did he think? Did he think that they were talking about doing a primary for their GOP counties? Is that what he thought?
I really don't know. He was in a rush. His wife was there. She had come down that day, and I understand. You're through for the day. You're ready to go. And I appreciate his couple of minutes there at the elevator. But, my thing was, I was trying to say, hey, they're turning around and they're opining this. And that's not right. That's not right on that. And then turn around and see Johnny Garrett give him a whip. That just, I don't know where Johnny Garrett's head's at, and he deserves a whip, but not that type of whip. But this thing is not right in what they did, and I think if we have to go to court on it, I think the U.S. Supreme Court will do as they've done in past cases, is uphold it as constitutional. Then who is this going to cost money to that should have never started? The taxpayers.
Absolutely.
The taxpayers.
Well, we'll definitely be watching this, and I hope that you guys do take them to court. I guess we'll watch and see what happens in Virginia, and then expect that you guys will follow suit on that. Hey, well, thanks for coming on. Thanks for all you do, and you are one of the good guys up there. For those, there's a lot of people out there that think there's nobody good in the SEC. I followed the SEC for several years now, and it used to really be terrible. It's a whole lot better than what it was. We do have some good people. There's you, there's Tess, there's Terry, there's Jerry Beavers, and I know there's others, okay? But I only know a handful of you, okay? But
Jerry, I want to tell you, Jerry was one of the good ones, but Jerry had enough, and he resigned.
Oh. And
he was replaced with another good person over in Wilson County, a gentleman by the name of Brad Light.
Yeah, he's great. I know him. He's great too.
He's great. And then I think about my friend over at Memphis, Lee Mills. Yep. He's a great one.
Yep.
I mean, we got some great people throughout the state.
Yeah.
We don't always agree,
right?
But we always try to talk. I'll disagree, and I'm one of these that I'll try to pick up the phone and call you. And another great one over in East Tennessee is Patty Mills, and she'll tell you. I'll ask you if I disagree with you on something. I'm gonna ask why. Yeah. I'm not mad at you. I want to understand your reasoning.
Right.
And I can't understand why some of the folks do the things they do, even on the state executive committee.
Yeah. Well, hey, once again, appreciate what you do. Appreciate you taking all your time on the SEC and all the other things you do. And we'll definitely have you back on. We'll be following this issue. And thanks again, and you have a good night.
I want to encourage everybody to watch your show with Steve Hickey. Steve Hickey is a great, great individual. I've got to know him. A military guy, retired from the Air Force, now flies for United Airlines overseas. I talked to him the other day, and he was in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Oh, yeah.
One day he was in Dubai in India. So, I mean, this guy's a great individual, and I want this to be out there. What Todd Gardenhire, he was testifying in the Senate the same day I was testifying in the House. Clay Doggett said, Morris, I'm sure glad that wasn't you that Todd Gardenhire cut loose on, because you would have told him how the cow eat the cabbage, and you better believe it wouldn't have been nice. That guy,
he should have been booted. He should have been at least censured. I mean, and the chair should have stepped in. That was just out of control. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. Steve's a great guy, and we'll get more into the Williamson County stuff with him. And then prior to that, at 7 o'clock, we're going to have Kathy Henners here talking about the threat in our backyard, which is the Islamic threat. It's still here, whether you know it or not, and it's actually worse than what it was. Hey, I'm going to have to let you go, but thanks again. I got some announcements, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Good night. Thank you for having me.
Good night. Thanks for coming on, and take care. Johnson County GOP presents Foundations of the American Republic. It's a 3-part event: unalienable rights, scope of government, states' rights and nullification, actually states' powers and nullification, presented by Jeff Cobble. He's an esteemed constitutional attorney from Tennessee. This is Saturday, May 3rd, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. There will be a light lunch available. It's at the JC Public Library Meeting Room, no charge to attend. It's at 219 North Church Street, Mountain City, Tennessee. Call 423-727-6544 to register. The class is designed to help all citizens to understand what is involved in upholding an oath to the Constitution. For more information, you can contact Beth Tanner via email at sbethtanner@gmail.com. I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch our program tonight. Please be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons as well as the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We appreciate your support. Check out our audio podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and other platforms as well. Sign up for our weekly newsletter at our website, tninformer.com. Please find and follow us on Facebook and X. Our guest next week, as I said, will be Kathy Henners, here to give us an update on the threat in our backyard. And then again at 8:30, we'll be joined by Steve Hickey, the newly elected Williamson County Republican Party chair. He'll be talking about how the establishment is selling out the Republicans. The conservative Republicans, that is. I hope you'll join us again next week. That's it for now. Good night from Paris, Tennessee, that is.